This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
Face off between two branches of government.
District courts of this country do not have the authority to direct the functions of the executive branch, period.
It's tough. I'll still get home tomorrow, hopefully.
This is spiritual warfare. We're going to ask God to change our state.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. Breaking news out of Pennsylvania. Lawmakers an hour ago introduced an assisted suicide bill on the House floor. Brought by 5 Democrats, the bill would allow patients who meet criteria to request a prescription to end their own life. The bill modeled after Oregon's Death with Dignity Act. In Washington, D.C., no word on the outcome yet, but President Trump's legal team went head-to-head with a federal judge this afternoon over the deportation of illegal immigrants. It's a dramatic case of the executive branch of government pit against the judicial branch. CBS reporter Scott McFarland.
Face off between two branches of government that has the potential to become destabilized. We don't know what's going to happen next. The judge kind of set the table last night in the court docket for a possible contempt finding against somebody inside the Department of Justice, but that is a provocative notion.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller.
Our objective, one way or another, is to make clear that the district courts of this country do not have the authority to direct the functions of the executive branch. Period.
It got heated in the room. The judge, James Boasberg, called Trump's legal team, quote, troublesome, problematic, and disrespectful. Missouri Senator Josh Hawley says the third branch of government, Congress, needs to step in.
This isn't about Congress taking away power courts currently have. This is about Congress reforming and stopping the abuse. They do not have the authority to go out and to say, Mr. President, you can't do this. Congress can make that clear. We need to do it right this second.
America just bought an airplane.
This plane has produced numbers that nobody's ever seen before. The F-47 is equipped with state-of-the-art stealth technology. It's virtually unseeable.
President Trump actually bought a fleet of fighter jets from Boeing after a secret multi-year competition from several U.S. aerospace companies.
America's enemies will never see it coming. Hopefully we won't have to use it for that purpose, but you have to have it. If it ever happens, they won't know what will hit them.
Military experts call it the next generation of modern aerial warfare. London's Heathrow Airport has slowly resumed flights after a fire at a nearby substation knocked out power. CBS reporter Ian Lee.
120 planes already in the air turned around while others closer to London were diverted to nearby European cities. Airlines have canceled around 500 flights to and from the U.S.
It's impacted air travel around the world.
It's tough. I'll still get home tomorrow, hopefully. It'll just take me an extra day to get back to my wife and my daughter, and they're probably, wishing I would get home already.
Air traffic controllers at the airport in Orlando prevented a mishap when a Southwest jet was set to take off from a taxiway instead of a runway.
Stop was 3278, stop, cancel takeoff clearance. You're on hotel taxiway, stop was 3278. Stop was 3278, yes sir, we stop.
The plane was heading to Albany, New York. No one was hurt. The Social Security Administration just announced it will no longer allow people applying for benefits to confirm their identity over the phone. Now they'll have to do so online or in person at a local office. The New York State Supreme Court has ended New York City's effort to allow non-citizens to vote. The court ruled 6-1 that such an effort is illegal. The city wanted to give up to 800,000 illegal immigrants the right to cast ballots in state and local elections. Andrew Cuomo's back in the news. He's refusing to pay fees from a sexual harassment scandal that forced him from office. The latest from Family Life's Jeremy Miller.
Yeah, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is suing the state comptroller over legal bills, with lawyers due in court on Monday. State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli tells NBC4 New York he will not pay the legal fees the former governor has accrued in legal battles against the state attorney general Tish James. Several of Cuomo's other legal fees have already cost New York taxpayers more than $60 million. Jeremy Miller, Family Life News.
A transgender runner blew out the competition at a recent high high school girls track meet in Portland, Oregon. That student finished 7 seconds ahead of the nearest competitor in the girls' 400-meter final. Oregon state law permits biological boys in girls' sports. Women's sports activist Jennifer Say.
Some of the folks doubling down in various states, I think they really think of themselves as sort of social justice heroes, civil rights warriors. And I think they're just out of touch with voters, and they're out of touch with basic reality, more importantly.
The Trump administration says it will block federal funding to states that don't ban trans athletes from girls' sports. And pollen counts are significantly up in 39 states this year. A senior meteorologist at AccuWeather said Thursday those who suffer from allergies should prepare for an intense allergy season that could linger into autumn. New York and Pennsylvania are average for tree pollen this year, but high for grass pollen. Still to come in the 5 o'clock report, New York, a pro-life state, praying for your lawmakers and protecting girls' sports. A peek inside Legislative Day coming up after weather with Kevin Williams.
We've got a 50-50 weekend coming up. Chilly night tonight. Skies start clear, end up cloudy. Low temps upper 20s and 30s. Tomorrow will turn out cloudy and a bit breezy, with a bit of rain arriving. Late in the day and in the evening, that rain ends as flurries in spots. Temperatures tomorrow rise toward 50, then drop back into the 30s in the afternoon in western New York and western Pennsylvania. Sunday, fair amount of sunshine, chilly day though. High temperatures upper 30s to the middle 40s.
Thank you, Kevin. Jason McGuire with our own Bob Price at Legislative Day in Albany this past Tuesday. Let's listen in.
Your prayer is to make New York a pro-life state again. I'm like, good luck, Jason, with that. But you really believe God can move, even in a state like New York, so deep blue, so liberal with its politics. God can make a difference in the power brokers in Albany and in the policy we see in our daily lives. How is that going to happen?
Well, I remember people laughing at me when I was talking about in churches all across the state, the overturn of Roe would come in my lifetime, and people laughed. Well, it came along quicker than even I anticipated. And now the work has just begun, and so it is possible. And I believe that we are reaching a tipping point in New York. You see what is happening, how far left the progressives are moving, and issues of taxation, issues of immigration, and the social values. Girls' sports is an 80-20 issue. No matter what party you're in, you do not want some young man really competing athletically against your girl where she can get hurt. And so we see those issues. I think we're reaching a tipping point, and we're excited to move towards that. With 2026, it's going to be a big year.
Legislative Day has been happening for decades in New York. I remember we used to have it just down the hall in the big Empire State Plaza Convention Center. It's more of an intimate gathering now, where fewer people, but that's not a bad thing. Tell me a little bit about that metamorphosis of this event called Legislative Day.
Yeah, I think since the pandemic, people have changed. The legislature has changed, I know, and so we're adapting to some of those changes that are occurring. And so the event is smaller in number, but we're trying to get people more active. I'm really looking forward to one of the things we'll be engaged in is worship in the war room, is what we call it. There's a room here outside the governor's chambers. It's adorned with these beautiful paintings of various conflicts and wars that New Yorkers have been involved in. But it's also a spiritual reminder for us that this is a spiritual warfare. So we're gathering for worship in the war room today, where we'll sing songs, we're going to pray, we're going to ask God to change our state.
Pray for your elected leaders. I know you do prayer breakfasts for the elected leaders. What kind of message does that send to Albany when you pray for those that you are politically opposed, politically couldn't be more opposite? What does that do to a person when you pray for that individual?
Most legislators are like most people. They've never heard someone pray for them by name. And so when you offer to pray for them by name, very few will tell you no. Most will welcome it, many times in tears, because they have never heard their name mentioned in a very personal prayer. It's a great way to share the gospel with elected officials. They bleed just like the rest of us. And so when there's a wound in their life, let me tell you, they love to be prayed for.
And that's what makes New York families so unique. You're not just interested in the legislation. You're interested in the legislators, the people behind the legislation. How have you seen in the years that you've been involved in New York families, maybe a personal anecdote or something of a life changed through the ministry of New York families?
Well, I'll tell you, this isn't a legislator, though I have tales of that too, but a man who was experiencing same-sex attraction, was going through some struggles with custody of his children. Reach out to our office for help. And now we may have disagreements on other policy issues, but our office staff just poured into him, prayed with him, worked with him. You know what? We became Facebook friends, and who knows what God may yet do through that relationship. But God's opening doors to people that don't always agree with us ideologically, but we build bridges where we can.
Amen. Jason McGuire with New York Families. It's Legislative Day 2025, and since it is Capital Connection, we've got some homework to do, so we're going to talk about a few bills. Two of them are really good, one of them is really bad. Let's do with the good stuff first. The Protect Girls Sports Act is one of the bills that you're supporting this session. Talk a little bit, I mean, you mentioned a little bit about that 80-20 principle. This is one where it seems like most New Yorkers support. What chance does this have in the legislature?
Yeah, in your listening area, Assemblyman Molitor up in the Chautauqua County area is actually a sponsor of that bill in the Assembly. And so we're really pleased he picked it up as a new legislator. He's demonstrating where his values are, and he really wants to be there with parents and defending girls in female sports. Again, this is an issue, I don't know if it's going to move this year. It's an uphill battle in this legislature, but it's important to stake the claim and to say what's happening all across the country. We're not immune from that here in New York either.
I was talking to Brandon Showalter this morning, who's going to speak today about this issue, the transgender indoctrination, and just in 20 years, how far this has gone from the first state to legalize gay marriage, Massachusetts, 2004, to where we are today, where boys are playing girls' sports. Could you have ever imagined that it would move at such lightning speed, and do you see that pendulum shifting back, Jason?
Yeah, actually we do. It's funny because we did talk about that change would happen once we legalized same-sex marriage, but now we are watching the pendulum begin to swing, as there are people that are concerned about the impact this is having in public education and how it's impacting what their kids are taught and what's happening in the schools, what's happening in the libraries. We talk about the books in the libraries, all those types of things, on TV, the culture. So there is a pendulum shift that's occurring, and I think the last election demonstrated it, that people are thinking differently about some of these issues than they were even just a few years ago.
You can subscribe, listen to, and share Capital Connection and all of Family Life's original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at familylife.org. Time next for tonight's market report, brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Stocks are closing slightly higher to end a volatile week on Wall Street. At the final bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 32 points to 41,985. The S&P 500 added 4 points to 56,667, and the Nasdaq gained 92 points to 17,784. Faithward Advisors is a Christian financial planning firm online at faithwardadvisors.com.
If you're a part of Gen Z, you might feel ready to take on the world, but are you prepared to make smart financial choices? I am Rob West with your Faith and Finance Minute. Practicing biblical principles from the start and making wise decisions pays off financially and spiritually. Recognize that God owns everything and is your provider. Trust Him and prioritize generosity by giving first. Draw up a budget and stick to it. If you just got your first credit card, treat it with extreme caution because it's dangerous. Learn to live within your means. And start saving now. 10 to 15% of your income. Build up an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. Do those things and you will be ready to take on the world. Connect with a certified Kingdom advisor who's been trained to deliver financial advice that aligns with your Christian values by visiting our website, faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, 5 generations on a maple syrup farm in Wyoming County, New York. We'll take you there after weather.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We've got a 50-50 weekend coming up. A disturbance, a front, will bring us cloud cover, a breeze, a bit of rain, and a few flurries tomorrow and tomorrow night. Clears out with sunshine for Sunday, but it's a much chillier day. Here are the forecast details. A chilly night tonight. Skies start clear, end up cloudy. Low temps upper 20s and 30s. Tomorrow will turn out cloudy and a bit breezy, with a bit of rain arriving. Late in the day and in the evening, that rain ends as flurries in spots. Temperatures tomorrow rise toward 50, then drop back into the 30s in the afternoon in western New York and western Pennsylvania. Sunday, fair amount of sunshine, chilly day though. High temperatures upper 30s to the middle 40s.
All right, Kevin, finally at 5, temperatures up and temperatures down. That means maple sugar season is in full swing in New York. This 5-generation family farmer says it's his favorite time of the year.
I've had the opportunity to make maple syrup with my grandfather, my father and my uncle, me and my sons And now I'm making syrup with my grandchildren.
New York is number 2 in the U.S. for maple production behind Vermont, thanks mostly to family farms. 68-year-old Joe Conrad has spent the past few months in Wyoming County tapping trees to get ready.
It's just a love to share it with people I know and love and teaching the next generation the greatness of it.
His sugar shanty has Bible verses on the walls so he can teach his grandkids sugaring and Jesus.
A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord determines his step.
And that's the world that we live in for Friday, the 21st of March. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.